Hey guys, Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. This is our 2026 Beginner's Guide for Raid Shadow Legends. So you've decided to play Raid, or you're a veteran who just wants to revisit the glory of starting Raid all the way from scratch again. Either way, welcome to the video. My name is Ash. I've been covering Raid for over 6 years now. I've been on YouTube for over 11 years. I started with Supercell Games, and I moved to Raid Shadow Legends on a sponsorship, go figure. And I got hooked on this game because the truth is, yeah, this is a gacha game. This is a pay-to-win game, and it's heavily monetized, more so than almost any other game out there with the pop-ups and everything. But honestly, there's a reason that I got hooked on it. It's a really good game. You can actually play it. Player doesn't want you to know this. You can play it free to play, and millions of players do. And there's a reason Raid is #1 in the genre, in the hero collector kind of gacha genre, because it's really, really good. And 2025, we're actually coming off of a beautiful year, not just for veterans of the game, but also for new players, maybe like yourself. So the first thing that you want to do as a new player in Raid Shadow Legends, especially if you just downloaded, is delete it and re-download if you didn't use a download link. Now, I have a download link for Narma the Returned, who's a fantastic champion for new players. She's going to help out, bring a lot of poisons to the table with your Kale, who I think is the best starter to go with. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment here. But yeah, use a download link. It doesn't have to be mine. You can just Google best download link for Raid Shadow Legends right now. But I think mine's pretty damn good. All the creators, a lot of creators have them, right? So you're going to get Narma the Returned, and then after level 15, you're going to get your hands on Ugo and Tagore. Again, these are some of the best champions in the game, epics as well, revivers. It's going to give you everything that you need, so you actually don't even need to pull that many shards, or any shards, frankly, starting out in Raid Shadow Legends if you use a download link. Again, it doesn't have to be mine. Use anybody's. You will not regret it. So re-download if you didn't use a download link. Now, the second thing you need to do is use a new player promo code. Now, the best one at the time of this recording, in my opinion, is Desert Queen. Oop, not Desir. Desert Queen. Desert Queen is going to give you Tawana Rock, who's one of the strongest support champions in the game as well. You can see I used her on this brand new account right now that I have. So I have Narma the Returned, I have Tawana Rock, I have Ugo and Tagore coming to me as soon as I hit level 15 as well. This is gonna start you out head and shoulders above anybody who was starting out in Raid Shadow Legends a few years ago. Raid doesn't have like a catch-up mechanic. You know, you start the game that's already 6-7 years old now, and you're like, okay, how am I gonna catch up to the rest of the player base? And honestly, there is no winning in Raid Shadow Legends. There's no #1 player. There's no, I've completed the game and done everything. So play at your own pace. But I say that to say that instead of putting a catch-up mechanism in there, instead, they just throw really busted champions at you for free to help you as kind of a, you know, a battery to really supercharge your account, especially early on. So we talked about the starting champions. Now you're going to have your download link, which I'll have in the description, the pinned comment of this video. And then you're going to use your promo code, again, Desert Queen, or you can just Google search new player promo codes, Raid Shadow Legends. Just make sure it's a free legendary champion, right? They do change from time to time. And then as your starting champion, I think you can't go wrong with Kale. I mean, we were giving this same advice way back in the day of 2019 when this game came out. But Kale, I still think, is the most well-rounded, best starting champion out of the 4. That being said, you're not going to ruin your account or do anything, you know, that you can't just make up for in a week or two, no matter which of the starting champions that you choose. But generally, poison is kind of hard to come by in the early game, and it's extremely beneficial, especially in Clan Boss and in Dragon's Lair, where you're spending a lot of your time as a new player in Raid Shadow Legends. So go ahead and take advantage and go with Kale. My second favorite, for those of you who do want to buck the trend and go with something a little bit different, is actually Aethel. Aethel is a really good campaign farmer, and usually your starting champion is going to double as your campaign farmer to help you level up the rest of your champions. We'll get into all of that and what it means and how to do it in just a moment, but Aethel is probably my second favorite because she has an extra turn mechanic in her kit, allowing her to get back to her other strong AoE even faster than she otherwise would, and no other starter has that. Moreover, on Aethel, I will mention she has an incredible A1 ability. We basically colloquially call this A1. Her second skill is A2. Her third skill is A3, okay? But it brings a big version of Weaken on a triple hit basically you're going to have a 100% chance of placing it. That's really, really strong. No other rare in the game has an ability like that on their A1. All right, so now you have Kale, you have your starting champions. Now, I already told you guys this, but you're going to be tempted to pull a lot of shards, because that is the gotcha mechanic in Raid Shadow Legends, right? Pulling shards. I'll pull one just for the hell of it in this beginner's guide for you guys. So what's going to happen is you're going to always feel this pull to your summoning portal, and that's how you get new champions. It's one of the mechanisms to get new champions in the game. Back in the day, it was really one of the only mechanisms to get champions in this game. Now they have routine fusions, which require us to basically accomplish a bunch of tasks throughout usually like a 2-week or so duration, and then we can get a champion vis-a-vis feeding other champions into other champions, which we can eventually exchange for, you know, the real prize, the fusion champion, right? There's some permanent fusions in the game, as you guys can see, specifically Razin, Scarhide, and Lady Mikage. Razin is an old school champion, but he still is worth going for. He can still provide a lot of utility in a lot of different areas, either can control with his A3 or with his A2, bringing decreased defense and weaken on a single target. Decreased defense and weaken debuffs, I'm not going to go through every debuff in the game, but they're seen as kind of the staple debuffs. Every debuff in the game has, or most debuffs in the game have a weaker version and a stronger version. So 60% decreased defense and 25% weaken, those are the stronger debuffs. So he brings those both. That's really going to maximize the damage that you're able to do with any mob that has those debuffs landed on them. More on debuffs in a moment, because there's a lot to talk about beyond just what they are and what they do, specifically how to land them. Back to the portal here. You don't want to pull shards. You don't need to pull shards. If you use a download link and a promo code, you're going to have plenty to focus on for at least your first month in Raid Shadow Legends. And all of those champions that we talked about, the Ugos, the Tagors, the Narmas, Eleanoril, Tawana Rock, whoever you're talking about, Kale, they're going to be worth your resources, so you don't have to fixate and focus on spreading everything too thin. One big mistake that early players make in this game is they start falling in love with a billion different champions. They don't know who's good or who's bad, and they just start spreading their resources way too thin. And what it does is it slows down to a snail's pace your progression inside the game. So what's your first order of business in Raid Shadow Legends in 2026? Well, it's the same that it was in 2020, right? That's going to be to max out your campaign farmer. Now, for most players, that's probably still going to be your starting champion, your Kale, right? And when I say max out, what do I mean by that? I think I chose Aethel on this account, and this is a brand new account. This is a lot like your account's going to look like on day 1 or day 2 or whatever. But your starting champion, your campaign farmer, your AoE attack champion. AoE means, well, attack all enemies, is going to be your first order of business. You want to focus on one champion at a time to get all the way to level 60. Now, a good tip for you guys, whoever you choose as your starting champion, your faction crypt, we'll talk about what faction wars are, right? It unlocks at level 20, but that's going to be opening for a week permanently in the beginning of the game for you. Take advantage of that time and farm your faction wars early on, whatever starter that you choose. So if you choose Kale, your Dark Elves faction crypt is going to be open for an entire week. Usually they rotate one day and then they're off for a week. So that's going to be really smart to take advantage of that time. That way you can get glyphs and stuff like that. Again, we'll talk about what that all means. But first order of business is getting your champion all the way up to level 60. How are we going to do that? Why? We're going to go to the campaign. The campaign, we're going to start out in normal difficulty, but it can scale up all the way to nightmare difficulty, okay? As a new player in this game, you're really going to have 2 options in terms of what stage to farm on. But before we can farm, we need to progress in general, right? We need to progress through these stages. So you're just going to start out by going to the very first stage and, well, attacking these champions, right? A lot of content in Raid Shadow Legends, you're going to be attacking waves of champions. Sometimes it's 2 waves like this, and then there's a boss. And sometimes there's just 3 waves and there's no boss, just depending on the content. Sometimes there's no waves and there's just a boss, again, depending on where you are in the game. So, hey, we beat the first stage, we can move on to stage 1-2, and so on and so forth. Now, as we go, we're also getting experience on these champions. You can see they were level 1, and now they're level 2 and level 3 here. You can see there's clans recruiting in the background, by the way, guys. It's smart to join a clan even in the early days of Raid Shadow Legends. That way you can engage against the clan boss. All of this crappy gear with 1, 2, 3, or even 4 stars, just sell it. None of the gear that you get early on in Raid Shadow Legends outside of the lifesteal gear that they give you when you start out is going to be worth anything. It's going to be trash either immediately or in a week or two. You're going to outgrow it. So don't get emotionally attached to any gear that you get from this campaign battle, specifically early on or in the earlier stages of any of the dungeons that we talk about in this video. It's going to be quickly replaced. However, that lifesteal gear that you get in the beginning of the game, by all means, put that on your campaign farmer to help keep them alive. So put the lifesteal gear on them. You can see that we got levels up here. This is why we do campaign, right? We engage in campaign to obviously progress and get resources and silver and whatnot throughout the game, but we're also doing it to level up our champions, especially in the early game. So stage 1 is a little bit unique. We're only attacking 2 champions, but every other stage is going to be 4 champions. Eventually, you're going to get to a point in campaign where you can't progress any further, okay? You're just going to hit a wall where you don't have enough good gear, you don't have enough good champions on your account yet. At that point, that's usually a good place to stop. Let me switch to my main account, that way we can actually see this content, and we'll talk about what you should do then. All right, guys, we're on my main account now, so now I can actually show you campaign. So as I was saying, guys, we're going against 4, mobs once we get going here. So once you hit the wall and you can't progress any further, you can just keep going, by the way. You start out in normal, maybe you can make it all the way to hard mode, right? Just keep going until you get to the highest difficulty that you can. Most players hit a wall somewhere in brutal. This is the stage before the final difficulty in nightmare. And eventually you want to get to, let's just say you can get to a stage 12, right? A lot of players farm in 12-3 or in 12-6 in the early game. 12-3 gives you the most silver. In 12, stage 6 gives you the most, and it applies to other stages as well. Stage 11, you can do the same thing if you hit a wall there, right? But, and especially, I will say, stage 9, we'll talk about that in a moment as to why. But stage 6, you can farm in the early game, stage 6, for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's going to give you a little bit more experience, right? It's going to give you a little bit less silver, not the end of the world, but you can also potentially get speed boots. Getting speed as your main stat on your boots is so valuable in this game, and you basically want speed boost on all of your champions in the early and even into the mid game of Raid Shadow Legends. Even in the end game, most champions have speed on their boots. It's the only artifact that can get speed as the main stat, and it makes sense because you run with, well, your feet, and your feet, what goes on them? Well, boots. So anyway, you can get boots from stage 6, especially if you're lacking speed boots on your account, right? And a little bit of extra experience. Eventually, you can transition to stage 3. Stage 3 is going to give you a bit more silver, and it's going to help you economically, right? Now, speaking of silver, there's been a big change in Raid Shadow Legends in 2025. As I said, we're coming off a really good year. The biggest quality of life change ever in Raid Shadow Legends happened just last year, where now we can mix and match and switch our artifacts between any of our champions free of charge. They used to charge us an arm or a leg just to move one piece of gear from one champion to another champion. It's ridiculous. Back to the Dreadlands. So we're farming. Let's just say we're farming stage 6. First off, Dreadlands, stage 9, right? Level 9 of campaign is very important, because they have a few really good champions, specifically War Maiden, who's a rare drop. If you farm here long enough, you're going to get your hands on War Maiden. She's going to complement the rest of your squad really well, especially in the early days. So let me reiterate in terms of champions you should be focusing on. Ugo, Tagore, Narma, depending on which download link you use, right? The download link champions. Your starting champion, top priority, your campaign farmer, right? And then whoever uses a promo code. After that, 2 champions to be on the lookout for your very first month, the first 30 days, is going to be War Maiden, who you're going to farm from stage 9, level 9 in the campaign. You'll get her eventually. She has an AoE decreased defense. She's very useful, even in the end game, in restrictive content. Now, I say restrictive content because another thing they added throughout the years in Raid Shadow Legends is a bunch of end game content that requires only rare champions or epic champions or very specific niche champions. And you can use her throughout the duration of your Raid Shadow Legends playing days, right? So War Maiden is very good. Also, you're going to get experience. Now, check out this team here. I'm using this dude as my campaign farmer. Let me use somebody a little bit more realistic. I feel bad. Let's use Kale. See these other 3 spots? These other 3 spots are going to be the champions that you want to level up or the food that you want to level up. Now, when I say food, we use that term colloquially to describe champions that we're only leveling up to sacrifice to level up other champions or rank up other champions. More on that when we get to the Tavern in just a moment. So these are going to be sacrificial champions. Maybe they're not. Maybe Ingid, Twiststaff, maybe we want to level him up. But basically, this is the way the experience in this battle is going to be dispersed. 25% to Kale, 25% to each of these other champions. They're going to split it evenly. Kale, your campaign farmer, he's already at level 60, which is the max level in Raid Shadow Legends, so he can't get any more. So 75% of the experience is going to go to a good use. It's going to be used by these champions. So let me just put, because I don't have any gear on my Kale right now, let me just put Siegfried on, and you'll see what I mean. If I can spell today, it'd be great. So we're going to go in here. You can utilize super raids as well. You might have seen that. And there's an important thing that I'm not doing that you guys are going to understand. I'll tell you about in 2 seconds here. So we farmed this little stage. Took us a few seconds. No big deal. Everybody gets experience except for my max level champion, right? Look at this little XP thing here. Before you unload a lot of energy, this is the resource that we use in all dungeons, right, in this game. This is the resource that replenishes slowly throughout the day. There's other ways to get refills and stuff like that. Even by playing, you can get free energy refills. But our energy is one of our most important resources on our account. We don't just use it in campaign. Again, we use it in every dungeon in the entire game, okay? So anyway, we use energy, and we're basically converting this energy into experience. But there's a way to get an experience bonus vis-a-vis an XP boost. Now, I happen to have one somewhere here, I think. There it is. I got it from Grim Forest, which is a new game mode in the game. That's going to give me 100%, so double my experience. So before you go and blow a bunch of energy in the campaign farming to level up your characters or to help rank up your characters and your champions, make sure you get an EXP boost, okay? They also sell these EXP boosts, not like that in a pop-up, but they sell them in the gem shop, right? So the gem shop, an experience boost for 140 gems. I'm not going to lie, that's pretty pricey. You can buy a 3-day one for 280 gems as well. I would only use these before you start to, really spend a lot of energy in campaign or anywhere else that you're hoping to level up characters. The most efficient way to level up a character in the game is in the campaign. That's why we led by talking about it. So you use gems to get these XP boosts. Now, wait a second here. What else should we use gems for? In the game, in the early days, they give you a lot of XP boosts, and they give you a lot of gems just by completing things. When I say completing things, you should always have keep an eye on your dailies. You have daily quests, weekly quests, monthly quests, advanced quests. There's so many things to do. You should pay attention to your missions in this game, in your challenges in this game. All these little things on this bottom row here are just going to give you, kind of act as a compass for you as a new player. When you don't know what to do, well, go look at your missions. Go work on your Arbiter missions. Go look at your daily quests and do those activities and get the abundance of free rewards that they're going to give you just by playing the game. That's always going to be your North Star, your compass, when you don't know what to do next on your account, okay? Back to gems. If you go at the very top here, you'll see my energy, 164 out of 130. This is my silver, 1.59 million. That's what you use to upgrade things in the game, and even things as simple as pulling a shard. It's going to cost you 100,000 silver to do. So a lot of things cost you silver in this game. No longer, though, moving around artifacts, which is nice. That way, you can progress a lot faster in the game now that you can move around your artifacts. You don't have to pay silver. That way, you can always, in a perfect world, you can always be using your best gear on the champions that you're using at any given moment. And that wasn't the way for the first 5+ years of Raid Shadow Legends. Gems are kind of the premium currency in Raid Shadow Legends. I have 235 of them right now. So what should you do with your gems in the early game? Well, if you plan on playing Raid Shadow Legends for any amount of time, you should invest in upgrading your gem mine. This is probably the number 2 thing you want to do with your gems. I'll give you number 1 in just a moment. But upgrading your gem mine all the way to the max level, it will take a while, but eventually you'll get a return on that expense, right? And it will pay dividends over time. You'll get more gems out of your gem mine if you upgrade it, pretty soon, or, early on, excuse me. So go ahead and upgrade your gem mine. The other thing that you want to do as an early game player, and it's going to cost you 800 gems. So save up your first 800 gems and use them in this way. Every champion's the same, so, ignore who I'm going to use, Soulbound Bowyer, right? If I go to my Masteries section, now we're going to talk about all the different ways to upgrade and gear out a champion in Raid Shadow Legends. Moreover, we're going to talk about the exact process on how to upgrade a champion. And then I'm going to give you a little tour around the game. I'm going to talk about some key areas that you're going to want to spend a lot of your time on early game, areas you don't want to ignore to be efficient and successful in Raid Shadow Legends, right? But before we do that, I want to talk about Masteries. Masteries you can either buy or farm. You can farm them in Minotaur's Labyrinth, which I'll show you in just a moment. Or you can buy them for 800 gems. For one champion, you get all the Masteries, okay? So get all scrolls, 800 gems, and you get everything. This is the easiest and best and most efficient, and I promise you, will save you hours and hours of tedium, right? If you buy your campaign farmers Masteries, or usually your starting champion's Masteries early on. Pay that 800 gems, and then you will have one champion with completed Masteries, right? Now, you should go to hellhades.com and bookmark that page, or a Yumi Love and bookmark that page. I will have, by the way, all the resources that you need in the description of this video. You don't have to go hunt for them, right? But what you can do is, because you're not going to know anything about Masteries as a brand new player to Raid Shadow Legends, but you can go and there's so many good resources that will give you recommendations for champion builds. Moreover, there's YouTube guides on almost every champion in this game that goes over each of those champions more in depth. Hell, I have hundreds and hundreds of them on this channel and my other channel as well. But anyway, you want to go ahead and use the Masteries. It would behoove you, to me, I would recommend copying the Masteries early on, because you're not going to know what they do. But as you copy them, just do yourself a favor and take a minute or two and just read them. Just try to understand. Some of them are very intuitive. Some of them may be a little bit more complex, like Oppressor, for example, right? But just read them as you go, and eventually that's going to help you learn this game faster. Another tip to learn the game faster is there's an auto mode in Raid Shadow Legends where everything can play automatically, okay? But before you get so addictive to doing everything in auto mode in Raid Shadow Legends, when you get a champion for the first time that you know you want to upgrade, just take a moment, just like the Masteries, and actually read what they do and make sure you're trying to understand everything that they do. That's going to help you learn the game faster. It's really going to pay off. I say that because I see a lot of early players or brand new players, they just kind of mindlessly go, and then they have to go and relearn everything later on, right? If you just take the time to read everything early on, it's going to help you out tremendously. Speaking of helping you out tremendously, I have 2 videos I'm going to link in the description of this video, because I don't want to be here for 3 hours in this video, but 2 things are going to be important for you as an early game player to understand. Number 1 is going to be Affinity and why it matters. In this game, there's 4 affinities. We have Force, which is red, which counters Magic, which is blue, which counters Spirit, which is green, okay? And then we have Void Affinity, which doesn't have any favorable or unfavorable matchups. Now, Affinity matters a big amount in Raid Shadow Legends. Champions with Affinity advantages and disadvantages, well, a disadvantage gives you less damage, weak hits, less criticals, less damage. I mean, you guys can see right on the screen right here, I have a whole video talking in depth about Affinity and about rotation order on your team. Meaning what slot you put your champions on that page, that campaign farming page, for example. I'm going to link both those videos, but the one thing you ought to know is Affinity does matter a lot in Raid Shadow Legends. If you're struggling to make progress in any one area of the game, odds are you need to go ahead and put in a strong Affinity champion. Let me give you an example. We're going to face stage 7 of Ice Golem, right? See that little blue mark? That means that red affinity or force affinity is going to be strong. And Spirit Affinity is going to be weak. So if I was running a bunch of Spirit Affinity, a bunch of green champions, I should sub them out and put in instead red champions, or at least blue champions, or Void. That way at least I don't have a weak matchup in that particular area. That's going to help you progress a lot faster. Let's take a quick look at dungeons before we take a look at how to upgrade champions and how to gear them out as well. Actually, you click on that battle button on the very right or lower right hand corner of your screen, and you're given this menu of the smorgasbord lord, proverbially, of everything that you can do in the game. We talked about campaign already. We're going to talk about dungeons. We spoke a little bit about faction wars. Faction wars is going to be really important. That's where we get glyphs, as well as some forge material that's really important for perception gear. I'll talk about the forge in just a moment. Arena is where we do our PvP. There are 3 arena modes: classic, live, which is real time against another human being, and tag team, which everybody hates, which is 3 squads all facing off at the same time. You assemble the 3 teams of 4 champions. So you need 12 champions minimum to play tag team arena. Clan bosses. Well, you're going to go and join a clan, and immediately you're going to start out with old school Demon Lord. Old school Demon Lord. We'd love to have increased defense, decreased defense, and poisons. If you take away anything, poisons work very, very effectively against the Demon Lord. Against the Demon Lord, we're going to start at easy difficulty. You need to be in a clan. You work together as a clan to take down the Demon Lord, and then you want to try to get the highest chest, right? The highest chest is where you get some premium resources like skill tomes, which we'll talk about in a few moments, as well as some shards to pull more champions. So early on in the game, Demon Lord's a great spot to spend a lot of time, right? Hydra and Chimera are 2 more complex versions, I would say, of Clan Boss, where we're still working together to face off against very specific clan bosses, each with their own mechanics and strategic dynamics that we're not going to get into in this video. They do unlock a little bit later. Doom Tower is this big-ass tower with a bunch of different bosses every 10 floors and restrictive content. I can only use Void Champions in this content. Whoa! I can only use Void Champions in this content, for example, right? Doom Tower unlocks a little bit later. It's pretty self-intuitive. We're not going to get into all these game modes, but the nice thing about Curse City and about Doom Tower and about Grim Forest is they don't require your energy. Same thing with Faction Wars, right? So we talked about dungeons all require energy, but these other areas don't. Why does that matter to you as a new player? That means once you unlock these areas of the game, it would absolutely behoove you to immediately jump in and progress as far as you can. All of these areas have a normal mode and a hard mode, or a hard difficulty mode. Just start on normal mode and start just grinding it, right? No matter how early on you are, as soon as you unlock these modes, it's not costing you anything. And in Raid Shadow Legends, something that's not costing you energy is beautiful. It's just free resources. So go ahead and do them all. And they're all fairly intuitive, especially as an early player, right? You just go in and, like Curse City, for example, you're just doing more wave content, which we just spoke about in campaign farming, right? It's just another version of it. There we go. We're killing some waves. And then at the end, this is just regular stuff. There are bosses and stuff like that and double bosses, but the wave stuff, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. We go in here and then we get free stuff. I've already completed this, so I don't get a reward, but you guys get the point, right? And that's not costing me anything. I'm just restricted by keys, which have a daily limit. No big deal, right? So dungeons, though. In the early game, the dungeons that you need to know about really are Arcane Keep, and then the Potion Keeps, Minotaur's Labyrinth, Dragon's Lair, Spider's Den, Ice Golem, Fire Knight, okay? So the first dungeon that most people start with is Dragon's Lair. When we look at any of these dungeons, Dragon, by the way, is very susceptible to poison. I'm not going to give you a full guide on every single boss, but I already have those guides out on all the bosses on YouTube, so you can just search them if you want to. You know, for Dragon's Lair, you like some cleansing, you like some healing, maybe a reviver if you have one on your account, maybe Tagore if you have him on your account. But as you progress through these dungeons, you'll see this, I'm on hard mode. You start, well, obviously on normal mode. You want to aim in terms of what your goals are as a player. You want to aim for these thresholds, you know, 1 to 2 star gear or artifacts. In this game, gear is called artifacts, right? And accessories are like your ring and your amulet and your banner. Those are farmed in different areas, right? We'll talk about gearing in just a moment. I'll make it nice and easy for you guys. So 1 to 2 star gear, 1 to 3 star gear, 2 to 3 star gear. In Raid Shadow Legends, 6 star gear is the best stars that you can possibly get, right? And inherently, that gear is a lot better. So even in the early game, especially nowadays in Raid Shadow Legends, we're trying to aim, you should be able to get to stage 7 like pretty simply. That's going to give you your first crack at 5-star gear. And then eventually, you're going to get to stage 10. And there's no 3-star gear, 4 or 5, right? And then stage 13, should be a big kind of moment for you guys, because that's the first time that you can farm 6-star gear, which again is what you basically want on your account. 5 and 6-star gear as an early game player. Everything below 4, 3, and 2-star gear, you're just going to outgrow in a matter of weeks. So 6-star gear should kind of be your goal, right? And then eventually you'll get up to stage 20, or in 20 is going to be only 5 and 6-star gear, right? So start in Dragon's Lair. Speed, if you take one thing away from this whole video, speed is everything in Raid Shadow Legends. We already talked about speed boots, but speed gear is exceptionally good as well. Even lifesteal gear in the early game helps out a lot. But in the early game, the one thing that we always say is the gear is set as stats over sets. Meaning, sure, 2-piece sets, like speed gear 2 set, for example, that means you need 2 pieces to get that bonus, is easier to achieve than a 4 set. Lifesteal, my head's blocking it. But for lifesteal and for destroy and toxic, I need 4 pieces. That can be pretty hard as an early game player, so mainly we're going to go for stats over sets, but speed and accuracy might be the exceptions, because accuracy and speed are the 2 biggest things you want on your champions, especially in the early game, and they can be kind of hard to get in the early game. We'll talk about why in just a moment. Dragon's Lair, you're just going to be getting gear there. You get a little bit of experience, but mainly campaign's going to be your main source of experience in the game, but it's easy because you get speed gear, and it's generally considered to be the easiest dungeon of the gear dungeons. Now, Minotaur's Labyrinth is not a gear dungeon, but if I go to Minnow here, you can ignore my all-newt team here. If I go to Minnow, you'll see that if I go in here, I just want to put like a good farmer so we can make this pretty painless and quick, right? But if we go into Minnow, this is where we're going to get our mastery scrolls. Remember how I advised you guys to spend your first 800 gems on your first champion's masteries? We're going to have a farmer. It's not going to be as quick as this guy is going to be for you guys. But we're going to have a Kale or whoever you have on your account for damage. Go in there, and he's going to get some kills. He's going to farm the dungeon. And then you can see he has max scrolls on Siegfried. It says max, but the scrolls are randomly going to be rewarded to other champions on the team who needed them, okay? So that way, if you have one max, champion already, the scrolls are going to go to everybody else on the team who needs them beyond that champion that's already complete. Otherwise, you'd be there all day because it would be going to your campaign farmer in addition to everybody else. So Minotaur is a super easy dungeon. There's really nothing to it. Even as a new player, you can pretty much just brute force your way through, and that's where you're going to farm your masteries. It's only going to cost you energy. Also, they just added super raids. Super raids is pretty simple, right? Double the rewards with 1 run, but you also have to spend double the resources. It's a time-saving mechanism, and after years and years, they finally here, and this is the first beginner's guide that I can tout it, in campaign and in Minnow, they added super raids. Go ahead and use it. Always use it. It's going to give you double the bang for your buck. We're going to talk about how to fully upgrade a champion in just a second here. But to ascend a champion in Raid Shadow Legends, it's going to take keeps. It's going to take potions, okay? 2 types of potions. One type is always the same. It's the arcane potions that we get from the arcane keep. So you're going to be spending the majority of time in the arcane keep for all of your champions. That's the standard. And then you're going to need a specific potion in addition to arcane, depending on their affinity. Remember the color wheel that we just talked about? This thing. Well, depending on, for example, Kale, he's blue, magic affinity. We need the magic keep. You can pay to open it up, but it's best just to farm what you need the day that it's open. Right now I have Void Keep open. So the greater Void potions are the second resource that I need to ascend my champions. When we talked about your first order of business as a new player is going to be to max out your starting champion or whoever your campaign farmer is going to be, depending on what promo code you get or whatever, like download link or a new player or whatever. That includes fully ascending them as well. So there's a few ways that we max out our champions. Really quickly on dungeons before we move on. So Minnow we talked about. Dragon's Lair we talked about. Ice Golem and Fire Knight are a little bit more advanced for gear dungeons. They have different sets that they drop, but otherwise they play by the same rules in terms of the thresholds that you guys should be after in terms of gear level and whatnot. Fire Knight is very challenging though. You need multi-hitter champions, which is another video for another day, but I do have a complete Fire Knight guide if you guys want to check that out in the description below. Spider's Den though. You're going to be spending a lot of time in Spider's Den, especially as a new player. Remember how we talked about you're farming most of your experience and leveling up your characters in campaign? Well, how do we get silver? How do we get silver in this game? Well, Spider's Den. Spider's Den is the only dungeon that we're farming only accessories in, not the gear. And again, we'll talk about that difference in just 2 seconds here. But this is where we're going to get our rings and our amulets and our banners. But we can't put on our amulets and our banners unless we ascend our champions. How do we ascend them? Vis-a-vis potions from the Arcane Keep that I just told you guys about, plus the Affinity Keep in addition to that. Not only do we get our rings and our amulets and our banners here, right, in Spider's Den, but also our rings and our amulets and our banners, they sell for a hell of a lot of silver. So all the gear that we get in Raid Shadow Legends, the way that it works with gear is, the longer you play, the more farming you have to do to get good gear that's value over replacement, right? So a lot of gear, a lot of these accessories and rings and stuff, we're just going to be selling eventually. Even in the early game, you're going to be selling a lot of your gear. So the stuff from Spider's Den, it sells for a lot more silver. So if you're in need of silver, you can just go to Spider's Den and farm up a little bit, and you'll also get your hands on better accessories at the same time. So don't sleep on Spider's Den. Phantom Shogun and Sand Devil, they're there for artifact and accessory ascension, but we don't have to talk about that in today's video. That was added a few years ago, and it's more of like a mid-game thing to worry about, so you don't have to focus on that right away. Let's talk about how to upgrade a damn champion, right? All right, guys, let's just say that we got our War Maiden, we're here in the Tavern, and we're ready to upgrade her, okay? So we have these brews. You notice how they're different color brews? Red, blue, green, void. What do you think? Or purple? What do you think that means? Again, it all goes back to affinity, just like the potion keeps, just like the affinity triangle that we just showed you guys. So you can use any brew color on any champion. But for example, I'll get 12,500 experience on a blue brew on a red champion. But if we use a red or a force brew, we actually get 18,000. So you should always try to efficiently use your brews on the champion that's the right affinity for those brews, right? We can also get 7,000 experience if we sacrifice other champions or food into another champion. We would hit the upgrade, sacrifice, and boom, now she's level 17. Now, we can get experience through brews and sacrificing other champions, but a better way to get it would be campaign farming in the early game, at least, in Raid Shadow Legends. So eventually, we're going to hit max level. So let's go ahead and see. That max level is level 30 for 3 stars. But then we can't level up anymore. So what do we do now? Well, there's an upgrade rank section. In order to upgrade her to level 4, we have to sacrifice 3 items. So we can either sacrifice 3 more 3-star champions to get her to 4-star, or we can use 3-star chickens in this game. There's chickens for every, star level. There's 3-star chickens, 4-star chickens, 5-star chickens, and 6-star chickens. We're just going to use chickens because we don't have the champions. But this would be the time, if you don't have the chickens, that you could use the food champions, as they're called, that we leveled up in campaign earlier, that we knew we didn't really want to actually max out and build. We just wanted to use them to sacrifice to level up another champion. Ergo, War Maiden here. All right, so let's pretend we just did that. Let's pretend we took her in campaign and we leveled her up again, or we just wanted to max her right away and we wanted to use brews. Now we're going to take her to level 40. Oh, what are we going to do now, guys? She's stuck at level 40. We can't upgrade her level anymore. We have to upgrade her rank yet again. We have to go in there. We're going to use chickens again, but we just could use 4 4-star champions that we don't want to sacrifice forever. They're gone. And now, what do you know? She's 5 stars. But hey, we're not done yet. We're going to go ahead and take her back into campaign, and we're going to, because we want to max War Maiden. We want to use War Maiden. So we maxed her out to level 50, and then we go back to upgrade her rank, and now we have to sacrifice 5-star champions. This is what we're going to do for our starting champion, right? And now, in my case, I don't have champions to sacrifice, at least that I want to. Do I have 1 here? Yeah, I have 1 5-star champion. Do I have 2? Yeah, I do. Look at this. These could be food champions. I wouldn't go ahead and trash epic champions on your account, especially as an early game player. But let's pretend these are uncommon champions, right? But I'm showing you that you can use either chickens or you can use, level 5 or 5-star champions. Now we're about to have our first 6-star champion. Not on my account, but let's pretend. Upgrade, sacrifice, there it is. We have a level 1 6-star War Maiden, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what we want to do with our starting champion. Now we've reached the highest possible rank. All we have left to do is max her out. I'm going to take her back into the campaign, and we're going to max her all the way up to level 60, but we're going to do it right now with an XP barrel, nice and easy. Now she's level 60 maxed out. But wait, there's one more thing missing. You look at other maxed out champions, they've got, on my account, they have all these stars are colored in. How do we get the colored in stars? Well, let's go back and select our War Maiden. There's nice filtering systems here so you can easily find champions. And we're going to go ahead and go to the Ascend button at the very bottom. So we already talked about level. We already talked about rank. Let's go to Ascend. Let's max it out. These are all the potions that we just talked about in the potion keeps. Ascend. Now look at this. We have a 6-star War Maiden. We have a fully maxed out War Maiden with one exception. And you can see the little red dot telling us there's one thing left to go, and that is our skills. Now, we talked about this earlier. Every champion has skills, an A1, an A2, and an A3. War Maiden does something on all of her skills. You can read. She brings an increased attack buff. She has a decreased defense buff. Now we have skill tomes that are there to upgrade these skills. What happens when you upgrade a skill? Well, it tells you right at the bottom here. So on our A3 ability, Crumbling Blast, attacks all enemies, 75% chance to place a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. But I want to get that up to 100% chance. And instead of having, I can only use this skill every 4 turns, it's called the 4-turn cooldown. I want to get that cooldown down so then I can use it every 3 turns instead. Now, what's another way to use a skill more often? Well, simply building them faster. That's why speed is everything in Raid Shadow Legends for the 5th time, right? That's why speed boots are very important. We're going to gear her out in just a moment. So we need these upgraded. Now look at this skill, her A2. We're using all these skill tomes, but all we're getting is a little bit of extra damage. That's not really worth it. But unfortunately, in Raid Shadow Legends, we can't choose which skills our skill tomes go into. By the way, this is the #1 mistake that you should never make in Raid Shadow Legends. We have skill tomes for each rarity champion. I could, if I wanted to, use mythical skill tomes on a rare champion. It pains me just putting this book here. Get it away. These are called skill tomes, but people call them books in the community. We're gonna max out our rare for a rare champion. We're gonna use our rare skill tones. We're gonna use 13, which is gonna bring us to a fully maxed War Maiden. Now, if we go to our A3 ability, it's all highlighted in white, and it's a 3-turn cooldown. So now we have a 100% chance every 3 turns of landing a decreased defense on AoE, all enemies. All right, so now you know how to fully max out a champion in Raid Shadow Legends. Now let's talk about how to gear them. If we didn't have her maxed out, like we just did, look at this champion, Tuok the Wanderer. 5-star Ascension, 6-star Ascension. I can't use my banner or my amulet, which we farm from where? Spider's Den, right? I can't use it. I can't even put them on. It's locked until we fully ascend. And again, fully ascending means we use those potion keep resources and turn those gold stars or yellow stars into the purple or pink stars or whatever. Now, there's another whole thing called awakening that you might be wondering about. We're not going to go over that in today's video. That's kind of an advanced thing. But you can see how, for example, Zargala, she has 1 purple star and then the red stars. Red stars are awakening, another layer of maxing out champions in Raid Shadow Legends, which you don't have to worry about right now as a beginner in the game. So War Maiden, obviously, because we fully purple or fully ascended her, we have access to all of our accessories. Now it's where we talk about the stats in Raid Shadow Legends and what matters most. So listen up, this is important. Speed, we talk about boots, right? Speed boots, very important. Let's equip them, right? So now we have speed. This is called our main stat up here. And these are our substats. Again, the only artifact, all these 6 things up in the right-hand corner are called artifacts, right? And these 3 are called accessories. Artifact dungeons, accessory dungeon. Speed, main stat. The only area where we can get speed as a main stat is these boots. So having speed boots on all of our champions in the early game is going to be imperative. No matter who they are, we're putting speed on their boots. Ideally, a 5-star if you can find it. Just like this, which you can easily farm in Dragon's Lair, even as an early game player, okay? So our first priority is going to be get as much speed on our early champions as humanly possible. A super fast champion in the very beginning of Raid Shadow Legends is probably going to be around 200 speed, maybe a little bit shy, but that's kind of what we're aiming for. What's the next most important stat? Well, there's really two of them, right? It depends on what type of champion you're building. If they're a damage dealer and just a raw damage dealer, or any damage dealer for that point, any damage that comes from hits, right? Not from poison, but from hit, or HP burn, but from hits. We want crit rate. See the crit C rate? That we need to get to 100%. That's a top priority for damage dealers, okay? So now we got speed boots, check. 100% crit rate, check, okay? How do we get crit rate? Well, just like there's one artifact that we can put speed as a main stat, there's also one area in the game where we can choose critical rate and critical damage as a main stat, and it's our gauntlets. So you're already seeing something, some clues here as to why this middle row, or this bottom row of artifacts, is very unique and special. Why? Because we have speed, boots, crit rate, crit damage, gauntlets, and we can get percentage chest pieces. More on that in a moment. Our top row, they're all going to be the same stats no matter what. A weapon is always going to be attack, is going to be our main stat, attack. Our helmet is always going to be HP, is our main stat. That's it. There will be variance in the substats, but it's always going to be HP. And our shields, if I can find one, is always going to be defense as the main stat. No variability there. But our chest pieces, those can be percentage stats, HP percentage. If it was just HP and a number with no percentage sign, that's called a flat stat. We don't want flat stats on our chest ever. The things that we talked about on our helmet, HP flat stat, just the number, we don't want that on our chest. We want percentage stats, right? Okay, so we talked about priorities. Speed, we talked about crit rate, which we still need to get, so let's find some crit rate. I can use my filter, I can use my gauntlets, I can search for primary stat, crit rate. Boom, this is what we have available. I'm trying to pick the worst gear on my account. Sorry guys, my account is advanced, so I'm trying to pick kind of crappy gear, but it's hard. Okay, so now look at this. Our crit rate is 107%, and our speed is very respectable too at 192. We're almost there, but there's another stat that most new players get wrong, meaning they don't give it enough attention, and that is accuracy. Listen up. Anytime you're doing anything to any other champion or boss or anything in Raid Shadow Legends that isn't just direct damage, you need accuracy. So there's a few examples of this. The most easy to understand is just placing a debuff, decreased defense. We need accuracy. How much accuracy do you need? Typically around 10 points of accuracy per stage in the dungeon that you're encountering. So for example, if I'm on stage 10 of Dragon's Lair, I need around 100 accuracy to land my debuffs, okay? That's the threshold you want to aim. So stage 25 of Dragon's Lair, 250 accuracy. Dragon Lair hard, add another 50. 300 accuracy is generally a safe spot to land there. For the content that we're going to be going after, she already has 167 accuracy, which is pretty damn good, but I just want to find a chest piece. Let's just say I want to build my War Maiden for damage. How do I know what stat that I need for more damage? Well, it's going to say on every skill, on every champion, damage based on attack. So I want attack. However, it's also important that even on damage dealers, that we don't leave them so squishy that they just die. Because a good nuker is nothing if they're dead. So you might want to go, with HP percentage. Generally, people prefer on tankier revivers in Raid Shadow Legends HP percentage over defense percentage. So I'm going to be a little bit on the safe side with War Maiden. I'm going to give her HP percentage on her chest piece. So now she's, 40k HP. That's more than enough here, right? I do have my Faction Guardians and my Classic Arena. I'm more of an advanced account. So you're not going to be able to pull off all these stats, but it's really the type of gear that we were talking about that you want to take note of, okay? So then maybe we'll throw attack on her, crit damage on her amulet, right? But what do we absolutely want to put on her banner? Just like speed can be got from boots, well, you can get accuracy as your main stat only from your banner and your chest. Most players just go with banner because chest, you don't want to leave that damage and attack percentage or that survivability and HP percentage off the table, right? We generally want to rely on that. So it would behoove you guys to fully ascend to 6 stars so we can unlock the banner. It's a big day when you fully max out a champion, because then we can put an accuracy banner. Accuracy, main stat. Now we just got a ton of accuracy. We can also get speed as a substat, which is very good. It's the only accessory, the banner, that can have speed as a substat too. So we're looking for speed substats and accuracy main stats on anybody that we want to land debuffs. So now we've built out our very own War Maiden, guys. We built her with a little survivability, a little bit of attack. She's not going to do a ton of damage, but she does have enough crit rate to always land her critical hits. Thus, we are also, going to land all of our debuffs, and we have enough accuracy to ensure we're landing all of our debuffs as well. When we go to our starting champion, Kale, it's kind of the same deal, right? Actually, he has some pretty good beginner gear on as well in terms of examples. So I'm going to worry more about survivability on my Kale than I'm going to worry about anything else. Now, I don't have a perfect chest to put on him, so I'm going to put defense percentage. I'd rather go HP percentage, but this is my Kale. I have crit rate on his gauntlets. I have speed on his boots, right? And I have some survivability on his chest. And then I want to get accuracy on that banner again. So we're going to throw this on him. This is a beautiful Kale kind of early to mid-game build right here. It is 6-star gear, so it's going to be a little bit hard to come by as a brand new player. But Kale now has 315 accuracy. That's more than enough for an early game account. He has 100% crit rate. He can be using campaign farming, and he's fast enough, and he can take a hit too. So that's how we want to build our Kale. Most importantly, anytime you're doing anything to an enemy, accuracy. Remember I talked about Rosin Scarhide like 3 hours ago? He has this move, right? Where he has an attack all enemies, decrease all enemies turn meter by 100%. Does that require accuracy? Yes or no? Yes. We are doing something to the enemy other than just damage. We need accuracy, even if it's not just a debuff, okay? Important to understand that. If we have a artifact set that lands a debuff, let me give you an example as a toxic set, right? Or a stun set is even better, whatever one I find first. They're right next to each other. A stun set. This is a 4-piece set, so I have to put 4 of these pieces on my champion for them to go ahead and be able to stun potentially on each hit. Let's go ahead and throw 4 pieces on him, right? All right, now Rosin Scarhide is in a stun set. 18% chance to place a stun debuff for 1 turn. Artifacts that are landing debuffs are the exception to the rule. Do not require accuracy to land. Now you know how to build a champion, how to max out a champion, and the most important artifacts and accessory slots to get the most out of your champions that you invested in. As I told you guys, pop-ups, they're gonna be a plenty in this game. One more area I want to talk about before I let you guys go: the Great Hall. Now, even as a very beginning player in Raid Shadow Legends, you might be saying, dude, I'm not into PvP. I don't want to be facing other players who are more advanced than me and just getting my ash handed to me every single battle. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about losses in Raid Shadow Legends, guys. There is no winning in Raid Shadow Legends, right? So just go into the arena and just pick the easy battles. Even if you lose, no big deal. No one really cares. You're not going to get penalized. It's not a big deal. It doesn't cost energy. You get, replenishing arena tokens that you can use in your battles every single day. So we want to go in here and we want to do our arena battles. They give us resources for the forge, but they also give us these gold medals, right? What are these gold medals for? Gold medals are for your Great Hall. Your Great Hall has all these affinity bonuses. You want to prioritize accuracy. Just like we said like 10 times now, accuracy is super important in Raid Shadow Legends, right? So you can see, back to the affinities again. I'm kind of blocking some of them, but we have Void over here. We have Force, we have Spirit, and we have Magic. Generally, because you're going to have a lot of magic champions with your starter early on. Maybe you have Ugo as well, Tagore, right? Eleanor, Narma. They're all magic affinity, all these champions. So you can generally start with accuracy in your magic category, and you're just going to go ahead and level it up. Now, all the bonuses that we get from all of these stats in our Great Hall are going to apply everywhere in the game, not just PvP, which is why it's essential to farm your faction wars for glyphs and your arena for your Great Hall in the early game, even if you can't progress that much. There it is. That's your first priority in the Great Hall. Just do your arena battles. They're not that big of a deal. Final thing to talk about, guys. 2 quick things. Number 1, mystery shards. They're the crappiest shards, but if you're lacking a bunch of food champions, right? Like remember I said earlier, we're sacrificing a bunch of champions. Just summon a bunch of mystery shards. I have like 9,000 of them. It's going to give you a bunch of crappy ass champions that you're not going to want to keep at all, okay? But these are the champions you can level up just to sacrifice to rank up another champion, okay? Also, we talked about if you don't know what to do, follow your quests. You also got to be efficient in Raid Shadow Legends. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you don't know where to farm, let's just say, hey, you know what, today I want to make some progress in one of these dungeons, but I don't even know where I want to start. Go to your tournament and your event tab, right? Always look at them every day because there's always tournaments and events running in this game. For example, Spider Tournament. Now, you want to be efficient with your resources, the main resource being energy, right? So now I can get, look at these, all these rewards that I claimed. I got some gems. I even got a shard here, right? I got some brews. I even got a chicken, right? But I got all these because I farmed Spider's Den when there was a spider tournament going on at the same time. You guys should do the same. This will dictate and help orient where you should be focused in the game just by looking at the different events that are going on at any time during the game, right? This is going to help you. Oh, you know, I was thinking about farming Sand Devil. We have a Sand Devil turn attack on right now. Hell, I can get myself an Immortal Soulstone, right? I can get myself a 6-star glyph. So you're going to want to double dip and use your energy efficiently while you can get resources from these events and tournaments at the same time that you're incurring your normal day-to-day activities in Raid Shadow Legends. Last thing, if you're going to spend in Raid Shadow Legends, first of all, there's a million great YouTubers, aka a dozen or so, great YouTubers and content creators who are 100% free to play in the end game of Raid Shadow Legends. They haven't spent a dime on this game. And you don't have to either. It's a misnomer that you have to spend in Raid Shadow Legends to enjoy this game. I do, transparently, right? But you don't have to. The cool thing about Raid is you can compete, and again, you're not, like I told you guys 3 times, you're not going to win or lose in Raid Shadow Legends, right? You go at your own pace. You play this game the way that you enjoy it. You don't have to upgrade only good champions. You can, as you start to familiarize yourself with the game, you can upgrade any champions that you like, that appeal to you, maybe, you know? So there's no right or wrong way, and there's no way that you're going to absolutely ruin your account. Sure, you can make mistakes, sacrificing a champion, the upgrade or something like that, using the wrong skill tome, but just enjoy the game. And if you are going to spend, the one thing I'll tell you guys is set a budget early. One thing on the negative side about Raid is that they're very, very good at normalizing and kind of moving that, I don't know, that proverbial Overton window, right? To get you comfortable spending a little bit more every week or every month. You start out with a $20 a month budget, and a year from now, you're rocking $200 a month, right? You got to be very careful because they have every psychological trick in the book. So set a budget that you're willing to spend on this game if you are going to spend, and stick to it. Really, really, truly mean that, guys, because this game can get dangerous in terms of monetization if things get out of control. Before you know it, it can happen to all of us, even if you have the self-discipline. There it is. That's the 2026 Beginner's Guide in Raid Shadow Legends. Hopefully this gave you at least a good compass starting out in the game. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll try to get to them if I can on the comments. If not, we have a great community who's there to help you along the way as well. Much love, and as always, take care, guys.